Good morning, everyone. All right, thank you. Welcome. I know it's a little muggy in here, so I took the liberty of taking my jacket off just because it was a bit warm. I say that to say, make yourself as comfortable as you feel appropriate. I don't want people getting crazy. It's not that muggy in here. All joking aside, just today is really more about just sort of a pivotal point in our marathon, run, journey, whatever that analogy is that you want to sort of equilibrate this to. It's that important part of any long race where you take a little bit of a slight slowdown, you get some water, you catch your breath, you take in nutrition, and you sort of recharge. Because the next phase of what we're about to take on, about what you would be about to take on in this long run, in this long race, it's gonna chew up some energy. And that's because it's the most important part of the race. And it's the most difficult part of the race. And so Mr. Roberts alluded to the fact that we do have many more people here than just human resources, and that is because today we're talking about bringing all of these various projects that we've been working on to really catapult the organization, the 70,000 people who work here, to the next level. And that's our job, to create that and allow it to move forward. So that's why the name on the presentation says maintaining our pace. The critical part on any long race is you're gonna slow down slightly, but you're gonna keep that pace essentially going so that you can speed up toward the end. And so first, I want you to, many of you have been involved in the various projects that are in flight right now. Polaris, Career Framework, formerly known as Job Architecture. We may change the name again, who knows. Onboarding, internal mobility, technology projects, etc. The hardest part of what we're about to accomplish is trying to describe and create that image for everyone else in the organization. So what do I mean by that? So let's draw a parallel. How many people have recently come back from vacation? Okay, I just came back. Today's my first day back. I feel great, fantastic, as I was saying to someone before, re-energized and so on. What I find hard about coming back from vacation is a lot of people ask, well, how was your vacation? And you try and create this image of where you were, right? I was just in this beautiful place. The weather was like this. I did these following things. Here's what it looked like. So you're creating this image. You all have worked on these projects that I've just described, Polaris, onboarding, career framework, etc. And you've been in the detail. You've been in that place. Some of you may not describe it as a vacation, maybe describe it as something else. But the point is, you've been in that place. Something occurred while you were there. You created something. Our job now is to create the image for the rest of the organization, while at the same time, I'm going to cover this in a little bit, there's going to be a large number of people who are going to be testing the heck out of the technologies that we're going to be putting in place. We're not going to spend most of our time, or I'm not going to spend most of our time talking about the technology, because this is not about technology only today. This is about really a convergence of these various projects, these various key strategic initiatives that allow us to really catapult to the next level. And so today is not about in-depth training. Today is really about you sitting back, absorbing, listening, in a way sort of relaxing for the morning, and allowing your mind to just sort of find its way into this place. And so this first slide really talks about what I was referring to as this convergence. And so if you look toward the left of the screen, today what we're going to do is 3 key parts, and on the left, educate you about the Polaris transformation, the integration of the HR initiatives, HCM Cloud, HR service delivery, how we will continue to evolve to provide a service to the customers of the organization. Who's our customer? The team members. Career framework, internal mobility, and onboarding, all critical pieces to help evolve this organization, this culture of this organization to the next level. Why? So I can be the best me, so you could be the best you, and whatever you do, you could be the best whomever you are to the patient and the patient's family and the communities we serve. That's how these pieces work together. We're going to engage you with interactive activities that allow you to experience the future state and better understand impacts on HR, on managers, on the team members. Andy appropriately said there's more than just the HR in this room because this is not an HR project. Granted, it runs off of many of the things that HR is responsible for, technology, people, processes. But in many ways, it is an effort to get the most or allow people to reach their highest potential throughout the organization. And so we're going to show you some ways to really get you involved in that personally. And then we're going to continue to motivate, equip, and activate you to communicate to leaders and team members across Northwell. What you're going to see in one of the slides later on is we are at this very important pivotal part in our strategic journey, and that is really shifting from all of the real detailed work to trying to communicate the vision and enable the rest of the organization, what we would otherwise refer to as change management. And if we are able to effectively do that, we will create a successful and sustainable strategy that will last far beyond. You're going to hear me talk more about that in slides to come. So we're going to spend a lot of time today connecting the dots, which is why, as Andy said, you'll get all the materials today. Take the time to just absorb, listen. Use this as your time to sort of catch your breath, take in your nutrition, and we'll keep going. So first, what I do want to do is show you a very brief video on the involvement that many of you have had thus far.
Polaris is not a final destination, but beginning of the journey to improve our candidates and the team member experience and provide our managers with the tools and the insights for continuous success.
And I think Polaris is a wonderful opportunity for us to think about things differently, get the tools we need, and be able to better provide the services we want to provide to our team members.
How fabulous is it that each one of our team members within the HR function will now have the ability to look and partner with additional data, additional resources, and elevate the conversation that addresses the operations strategic needs.
Polaris will absolutely be a game changer for Northwell. It'll really take us to the next level for all different types of team members. For HR to start with, it'll give us streamlining and efficiencies and just the day-to-day work. Our processes and flows will speak to each other. It'll be able to give HR tools to continue to be the business partners that we really want to be. For leaders, it'll be able to give them analytics, efficiencies, time back in their day to be able to spend that quality time that they need to be spending with their team members. And for team members, just imagine the empowerment that they'll have. They'll be able to access information. They'll be able to really have a voice in their career and their entire life cycle here at Northwell.
How this project, how this work connects us as an HR team, as a function, it tests our mettle. It's a true stress test. The ability to do your day-to-day while also executing on a large-scale initiative is just a great opportunity. And we're seeing every day that we're truly made for this. We're made for this work. We're getting stronger and stronger. We're learning together. We're growing together. We're being stretched together. So I think that's always game-changing, and it just validates the sophistication and caliber of each and every HR team member in our organization. So I'm just extremely proud of that. So let me take the opportunity just to say kudos, a shout out to everyone. This has been a phenomenal experience and will continue to be. And then the true test, the true value added indication will be when we can look back at what we've achieved together and see the success. So congratulations to everyone. Job well done.
Okay, so a couple of words there that I want to emphasize. One, I believe it was Maxine who said game changer. So the work that we have done thus far will be game changing. They will be game changing for this organization, which continues to grow at an incredible pace. People talk about growth being one of the most difficult things to manage, and why? Because maintaining culture during a time of growth is one of the hardest things to continue to maintain, evolve, and preserve. And so that is a big part of where this strategy is grounded. What this also does is it gives us tools. You heard the word enable. You heard people talk about leaders, getting the most out of our leaders, getting the most out of our team members. And that is the journey that all of you have been on. And so it was stated in the short film. I do want to also extend my thanks and gratitude to all of you for the amount of work that you've put in. Many of you have put in days upon days of work, hours upon hours. And so a huge amount of thanks for the work that's occurred so far. It doesn't end here though, right? This is where, as we said, we slow down our pace a little bit and then we kick it into high gear. So what to expect from today as you allow yourselves to sort of recharge. So first, well, we're going to do a fireside chat type discussion. Felt a little bit more inviting than a panel discussion and allowed us to have a little bit more of a inclusive conversation. And that's going to be with Maureen White, our Chief Nurse Exec, and Joe Shulman, our Senior Vice President. And so their perspective in the organization from projects that they have been working on with us, as well as their leadership roles within the organization, specific to career framework and career experience. We'll then we'll break out into groups. You all received folders, and within your folders indicates the group that you're in. And then we'll go into a couple group discussions, the HR business partner preparation, and the career life cycle breakout sessions. Why are those two very important? What you'll soon begin to appreciate is this whole next phase, whether you were involved in the detailed design, process design creation or not, this project comes to life when the central pieces meet all of the outward-facing pieces. What do I mean by that? It means the HR business partners are very much going to be the ones who carry this strategy on in the future and make it successful. So not too much pressure here, but this is where we will all rely on each other. Those some of the centers of excellence, but then the business partner, that relationship, that one HR, to allow this to be as successful as possible. So we've had good discussion in rooms during process design sessions. We've had good debates. We will continue to have those debates as long as we're having them in a meaningful and respectful way so that the organization is the beneficiary of those discussions, then we're doing our job. But once this thing goes live, we all stand united as one. And I will continue to emphasize that point from here on out and after May 2020 when we actually go live. If you find that you're not able to carry that torch, then you need to let us know beforehand. Why? Because it can't be the type of scenario where we go live May 2020 with a host of different projects that we've just talked about, a host of different key strategies which catapult us and are game changers for us without everyone locked arm in arm walking into the future. There'll be too many naysayers. Let me say it up front. There'll be a lot of change, and change is hard, and people don't like change. We know that. You are the change agents. And so if you're having a hard time with the change, that's where you need to be able to talk to us. That's where you need to be able to describe your point of view. And then I will be honest. There will be some who will just say, this ain't for me. And that's perfectly fine too. To be game changing, we have to be different. We have to act differently. But if we do that united as one, we become successful at that. There will be people after May 2020 who say, this technology doesn't work, these changes were no good, I don't understand why they did this. There will absolutely be people. We are trying to change 70,000 minds. There will, of course, be some naysayers. I'm practical, if anything. And so our job, though, is to make this as successful as possible so that we can bring people along with us, so we can show them the way, that we can get them there, because in time, we will get them there. We have had a lot of time to absorb this information ourselves. We will continue to have time to absorb this information. What today is about is beginning to make that shift in our minds of how would you communicate this? How would you extend this out to your most difficult business partner, your most difficult manager, your most difficult operator, your most difficult delegate? Think of those instances, and that's where I want your mind to really be situated today as we go through the remainder of this information. We'll then go through career life cycle, leading through change and group discussions. We'll break for lunch. We'll have some recap discussions from Alina and debriefing on Polaris proper. And then we'll have some closing out comments from Maxine and then myself. I covered some of this in my prior comments, just more of my mind just sort of taking the path that it decides to go. But anyway, so throughout the day, just to reemphasize them, keep a positive mindset. If Michael Dowling were up here, what does he frequently talk about? Optimism, the power of optimism, the power of a positive mindset. As I said previously, and I'll state it again, there will be times where we are ourselves doubting how this is going to turn out. But together, we will figure it out, and we will deliver upon what we've promised to the organization. We are the ambassadors of change. We're setting the pace. We've already discussed that at some length. Think One HR. That includes everyone in this room, HR and non-HR, whatever's on your badge, doesn't matter. We are all agents of change. We are all ambassadors of the culture. We are all working together for the people of this organization. That is my definition of One HR. Look across initiatives and functions and break down the silos. It doesn't matter if you've worked on onboarding versus career framework. We're all working on the same projects today under this larger umbrella of Polaris. That's what we all working on today. Keep an open mind, trust the process, and ask questions and be curious. Many of you have seen this slide before. This has been our 3-year journey as we've, made the business case for all these aggressive changes, and then begun to lay some of them out over the course of our Highline strategy, which is experience, wellness, transitioning to total well-being, talent, and technology. Technology at the top of the slide here for now will eventually move down to the bottom of the slide as a foundational key piece to our strategy, supporting the strategy. It's up at the top today because it is involving so many moving pieces, and there's certain things that we just absolutely cannot get wrong in the technology. And those two things I've been consistent about, and that is payroll. People expect that they're going to get paid. I know that sounds like an odd thing. And secondly is talent acquisition, the technologies that they work off of. Has to work? Absolutely. We're too big of an organization for both of those huge engines not to work. In addition to all the other tools that we get that enable us, and we're going to talk more in a second about what the customers were asking for with regards to the tools that we put in their hands. And we've heard all of that feedback, and many of you have baked that into the design. Polaris, future HR operations, I'll spend a moment on that. We need to continue to evolve to provide a superior service. If we're asking for a game changer, taking things to the next level, a best place to work, I'm going to come back to that, then we have to be able to provide that service in the most meaningful way possible so that, again, we can optimize all 70,000. Down to the best place to work, so many moving pieces in and throughout this. Many of the strategies that we're talking about today and over the last number of months are in pursuit of this. How many people believe, by a show of hands, that we can be an absolute best place to work? How many people believe that we can be the best place to work? How many people believe that is going to take some really hard work? Absolutely. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. And that is the theme that goes throughout the last number of months, the number of months to come, and this goes way beyond May of 2020. We will do some very hard work to get to that point. But we all believe. I don't think I saw one hand that was not raised, so thank you. You can all stay. That was not raised, but you recognize, you see the potential. You see what we can be. You know that it's there. You know that it's within reach because you've seen how much change has happened over the last number of years. And so you feel it. I know you feel it. Because even when we invite new people into the organizations, meaning they take a job here, they may come on and they may talk about, well, this was a little bit different at my prior company. This is a little bit better here. This is a little bit worse. But they ultimately see what this can become. Why do people stay? Because they believe in what Northwell is. They believe in the culture of who we are. I was just talking with Carol Battaglia before. There's something about Northwell, and there's something about what we are trying to create here that'll help catapult us to the next level. You see it, I know you do. How do we get there? That's where our minds are functioning today. What is it? We've tried to put this in words. We're trying to accomplish a lot. And this is what you all have said that we have tried our best to narrow down. Polaris is a journey to reimagine the experience at Northwell by modernizing our HR technology. There it is. We saw it at the top line. We have to do that as a precursor. Equipping leaders with real-time talent insights. You can't expect me to get my talent to that top level without giving me tools to get them to be insightful into how well they are performing or how they are not performing and how to get them there. Enabling simple. If it's easy to use, they will use it. Reliable HR experiences. This can't work off of the min. It has to work off of the max. And providing all team members with opportunities for career growth and contribution. Growth and contribution. How I contribute may be how optimal I want to be. I can be the best clinician at the bedside. That's where you should keep me. That's where you should help me grow. That's where you should help support me. The most important part in that whole dialogue is that that's what I wanted for me. And so we can talk about Workforce 2025 and millennials coming in. Forget all that. We have to create individualized career paths for 70,000 people and assume that number is going to grow to over 100,000 within the lifespan of how long these projects should be viable. And that's at least 5 years. After the 5 years, we'll be looking for even more technologies, new ideas and concepts. But the reality is these strategies have to last us these next 5 years. It's upon all of us to deliver them, make them successful. You may say 5 years, it doesn't seem long. You're right, it's not long. And that's why we just continue to keep evolving, but these tools will enable us to get to the next level and allow us to be best in class. You've seen this slide likely before. We made it, we're staying true to our word. This is the exact slide that we use, minus some minor revisions in wording, et cetera, that we use to make the business case. The organization has invested $45 million in these projects, some of which are on the capital budget, many of which are off the capital budget. And that's largely because many of these are process changes and people changes that we've introduced into this to make it all one very inclusive effort to get us to that next level. Career experience has been a major contributing factor to allowing us to evolve to this next level. Why? Through the not only the Great Best Place to Work survey, what they call the Trust Index, as well as exit interviews, et cetera, we continue to hear feedback from our team members of a couple things. One, you keep talking about optimizing talent, you keep talking to me about career growth, but I don't understand how I get promoted here. I don't understand why there isn't more diversity at the top of the house. I don't understand why I don't know what exact classes that I should be taking for me on my journey at CLI. I don't understand why there aren't enough classes at CLI. I don't understand why I can't finish the end of that sentence. And so take a moment to absorb the words on this slide. I'll read a couple of them. There is limited growth potential. No one should ever feel that way at Northwell. We pride ourselves on the ability for people to grow here. So maybe we need to rethink how many people we have in our high potential program. There is a lot of unjust promotions given. It really is about who you know here. Have we posted positions in the past? Leadership positions. I'm talking vice president level and above. Do we need to continue to challenge, however painful that may be, against what our cultural norms are? Yes. To have some opportunity for growth and career development and promotions, in essence, people just wanting to be their best me. How do we enable people to do that? Our Vice 2 management, try and promote from within, which then gets us to more of the internal mobility and how are we helping people move? How are we helping people move within the organization who have been effective in their roles, but yet giving advice to those who haven't been effective and not just increasing what I call inflation by getting a 10+% increase when they're actually not that good of a performer. We've heard all the feedback. You've incorporated into process design. Our job now is to continue to roll it out. And so more development, we've heard that. More self-service. The organization is going to get a lot of self-service. That's going to be one of the huge change pieces that we're going to have to deal with. It's going to look like HR had this back office stuff that they did, this processing, and they took it and they shifted it all onto us. Why did they do that? People will fill the rest of that sentence. They must be lazy over there. They ask, we're giving. We have to show them what we've given. How many people think they get the full use out of their mobile device? How helpful is it when someone comes along, in my case, my 2 kids, my 13-year-old, my 10-year-old, and show you how to use this thing and other things that you can unlock? Actually, the conversation just on vacation was from my 10-year-old, soon to be 11, 2 weeks, about how I don't snap enough. I was like, okay. So I'm working on my Snapchat. And I got a streak going with my daughter. Those of you know what streaks are, you appreciate that. I just learned on vacation. So anyway, more self-service. How do I get more of what I have in front of me? And that's what we have to help people understand. We have updated the microsite. We'll talk more a little bit about that later. Updated the information, updated the content. We will continue to do so. It's there as a tool. But a lot of this change is going to be face-to-face, person-to-person, helping people see it on the ground, in their hands, while they're at their working station, wherever that working station may be. And it may be on their mobile device as well. And that was one of the big pieces of feedback that we heard from this as well. So where are we? Here we are, just orienting you to the slide. At the top of the slide, quarter 3 of 19, quarter 4, quarter 1 of 20, 2 of 20, 3 of 20. We are scheduled to go live in May of 2020. That's a singular event. That's when we turn some of the switches on. That is not when we're done. By no means. Polaris will live on way beyond the May 2020 go live. Because why? At that point, it becomes more about the process change and how we are enabling people. And so there are many more project timelines that go beyond this time frame. For simplicity's sake, 1, it's been narrowed down, and 2, what we're trying to show here is specifically some of the testing that's going to occur now. So we've done design sessions. Now we go into 2 key parts called UAT and SIT, system integration testing. We got to make sure that these systems work together, that the various parts of the system work together. And then we go into user acceptance training, making sure that it does what we thought we intended it to do. And so a lot of testing that happens there. Will we find problems in both of these types of testing? Absolutely, absolutely. Alina would tell you she wouldn't be doing her job if we didn't. It's a question of how significant the findings are and then how we go and alter those findings. As you all clearly, I'm sure, appreciate, there are so many moving pieces in this. 1, because of the way that we are structured, the number of bargaining units that we have, the way that we handle integrations, and then will handle integrations in the future, the number of benefit options that we have, et cetera, et cetera. There are countless moving pieces. All of those things have to be tested. That's what's going to happen over the next number of quarters. taking us to what we call the dress rehearsal, really getting prepared to have this newly enabled technology in our hands. All throughout, we have an even busier time frame on the change management work. And that's what's represented on this slide. Same quarters represented up top. By the way, I didn't mention it on the prior slide. What you see there, 19C, 19D, 20A, B, C, those are the releases. So this is something else that we have to get used to. What do I mean by release? Just the same as on your mobile device, you get an alert, your phone's due for an update. This time, what we'll get from Oracle is we will get certain releases where they make certain improvements. One area where they're making big improvements, many of you are involved right now, is on their talent acquisition slide, Oracle Recruiting, Cloud. ORC it's referred to. They're making significant improvements based on feedback from organizations like us to get it to the next level of operability, allowing us to get to that next level of service, HR service delivery. See how these pieces are connected? We are providing feedback. They are putting those enhancements. Each one of those are critical because they enhance to certain key steps to getting us to go live. So that's what all the releases are. Those releases keep coming every quarter, whether we like them or not. The good news is it doesn't require downtime like we've seen in the past. These things will happen almost seemingly overnight. I say that only half-jokingly. But they, of course, still have to go through some of the same processes and testing, et cetera. And that's where even the HRIT and then the IT functions within this, they begin to evolve over time as well. Working our way through the rest of this slide, it really represents more of that change management work that needs to occur. That effective communication, that ability to gain feedback, absorb, and then be able to educate, train, and demonstrate. Another item I'll point out here is you do see the multiple pulse surveys. That is, again, an incredibly important part of us continuing to evaluate where we are on our journey to become that best place to work with the tools that we are utilizing to put in people's hands. So together as one HR, we will reach our goal. There's going to be many challenges, stated them at the opening of some of my comments. Time constraints, competing priorities, absolutely unequivocally. We are a health system that just likes to pour it on. We are ambitious in that sense. We continue to look for more opportunities. Try telling our CEO that we're going to slow down. No, that's not in his vocabulary. It just means we've got to continue to work smarter. I think we've done an okay job of this, of saying, well, we're just not going to work on that now. We have to hold on that, and we've got to focus our attention here. We have to be even better. There's certain things we just won't be able to do until it fits into the right time within our strategy. Which also means that we have to be able to then communicate why it is important now, as opposed to waiting and doing it later. Let me also state in that there are going to be some projects that we just outright say no to. And that's not meant to be an insulting item. That's just to be one of, there's more of a practical comment. There truly is only so many hours in a day. We all understand this. But we do have to prioritize the work that we do go after. We'll continue to see technology gaps when this is done. We're already working on a host of technology advancements, largely around employee health and the activity that goes on there, largely around some of the other technologies that we leverage, whether it's Kronos and others, technologies that are needed for flex staff. So the technology conversation doesn't stop. It will put a highlight and really a spotlight on some of the things that we now need. We have to force ourselves to remember the BlackBerry. But when you think back to the BlackBerry, you're like, oh, I loved my BlackBerry, but there were so many things that it didn't do. Mostly I liked the keys. So did Rebecca Gordon. I think Rebecca Gordon was truly the last person to have a BlackBerry in the health system. But now you look at your phone and you're like, I just wish my phone did this. So here's the good news. We will elevate the expectation of the organization, who will then, so we'll look to have a game changer to the organization. The organization's going to say, awesome, we got it in some period of time. Then they're going to come back to us and say, hey, what about this? And that's why I say this is no more than a 5-year strategy, because in that time, they will be upping the ante on us. We've got to stay ahead of that to be best in class. We will continue to evolve the history of the hospital-centric cultures and that way of doing business, but that will hold us back. I will not sugarcoat that. We will go into some of the newly integrated practices and/or hospitals, and we will absolutely challenge the way that we do business there. We'll focus on culture first, but once that's done, we're moving quickly with some of these other items, which means that then right after we go live, we're moving quickly over to some of the other places, Mather, South Oaks, et cetera, to continue the evolution there. Peconic, et cetera. How will we be successful? We have to work together, break down the silos. We've got to drive efficiency, be ambassadors of positivity, all the same comments I've made before. Continue to innovate, continue to be agile, and set the pace for the rest of the organization. With that, I will maybe, I'm going to go off script here for a second, so where's Joe? You may yell at me. Couple of questions, I'll take a couple questions if anyone has them, and then if not, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy, who will be moderating our fireside chat. Any questions that I can answer before I turn it over? Joe.
What is a street?
Yeah, it's a great question. Question was, what is a streak? So, I mean, I could show you. So a streak is how many days in a row you actually snap someone, and so stop me if I'm wrong here. But what I do on my streak, because my daughter does, is you put a little S on your snap of your picture of yourself, and then you send that, and you have effectively created a one-day streak. You do that 2 days in a row, now you've got a 2-day streak. You do that 7 days in a row, and you've got a 7-day streak. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Apparently about anything at all. Well, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your hard work. I am thrilled and delighted to have not only Maureen White, but Joe Shulman here as well, to be moderated by Kathy Donovan. And I am very excited to see where the conversation takes us. Thank you.